So before we get started, I'll introduce myself briefly. My name is Tatum. I'm currently a master's student at Seoul National University, a university in South Korea. And I'm really passionate about studying abroad and international education. So today I want to talk a little bit more about some study abroad scholarships. In particular, I will talk about the NSLI-Y or Nisly-Y. Many people say it many different ways, but I will talk about this program a little bit more in depth. So to start off, what is the Nisly program? Nisly is a U.S. Department of State funded study abroad scholarship program for high school students. And so these scholarships include summer study abroad as well as full academic year study abroad programs. The goal of this program is to give students the opportunity to learn something called critical needs languages. These languages are languages that aren't often taught in U.S. high schools and are critical to U.S. national security. So I will put the whole list of Nisly languages right here. But for me, I was a participant in the Nisly Korean program, so that is what I will talk about today. So obviously, I participated in this program a while ago, 8 years ago to be exact, in 2014. So while the program might have changed a little bit in its structure, the goals of the program are really similar. So I still want to give you some advice on how you can apply, some tips before you go, as well as a little bit of a taste of what a day in the life on the program might look like. So first, who is eligible for the Nisly program? The Nisly program is for U.S. citizens, so you must be a U.S. citizen at the time of application. It is also for students from 15 to 18 years old enrolled in 9th to 12th grade at the time of application. So even if you have graduated by the time you're participating in the program, as long as you were in 12th grade at the time of application and you fell between that 15 and 18-year-old mark, then you're totally eligible and you're more than welcome to apply. And also, students must have a grade point average of above 2.5 at the time of application. But other than that, there are a few more eligibility requirements that don't apply to many students. So I'll just go ahead and link the Nisly website below so you can take a look just to familiarize yourself with all of the eligibility requirements there. So now moving on, I will share a little bit more about my personal experience on Nisly. So there are 5 main parts of the Nisly Korean program, and I have some notes here, so I'll be looking at my notes while I talk. The first main part is your language class. This is the goal of the Nisly program, and this is the biggest thing you will be doing and investing your time in while on Nisly. The second thing is a homestay or another housing option depending on your program. But I know for Nisly Korea, they at least try to give students the opportunity to stay in a homestay, if not for the full time during the program, just a weekend or 2. The third part of the Nisly program is orientation, or otherwise known as pre-departure orientation. So before you go, you will have an orientation in the US, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. The fourth part is the Hanmi camp. So I'm not sure if they're still running this camp due to the COVID situation, but I wanted to share my experiences about the Hanmi camp as well as what this adds to the program. And the fifth part, and the part that I remember the most, is the supporters. So let me dive a little bit more in depth about each of these 5 things. I was in Seoul, South Korea. I was studying at Sogang University, and on the Nisly Korea program, you will get 120 hours of language instruction over your 6-week program. So if you do the math, that's 4 hours of language instruction a day, Monday to Friday. My class was from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m., so right in the middle of the day. And in these classes, we did midterms, we did final exams, we did some speaking exams, and we did a whole host of textbook activities, talking activities with friends. It was a really speaking-focused class, which I think allowed me to get the most out of the program and really improve my speaking skills. So before the Nisly program starts, you will do something called an OPI, or Oral Proficiency Interview. This is so the program can measure how much their students are improving throughout the duration of the program. So I started out with a beginner low score on the OPI. but after just 6 weeks, I ended up placing into intermediate low in my post-program OPI. So that was a huge gain, especially for me who had never studied Korean before with a teacher. I had just looked through some textbooks before I left. So it was a really big moment for me, and I think it made me feel really proud at the end of the program to get that score. So moving on to the second part of the program, the homestay. I stayed with a Korean host family for the full duration of the program. This experience was a little bit difficult. I think it was the most difficult part of the Nisly program for me. I know it's different from every person and from family to family. Each situation is different, but just something to be aware of when you go into the program is you're not sure who you will be placed with or what that family situation is going to be like. So make sure you're flexible and going into the situation with an open mind. So my family did not speak any English and I did not speak any Korean, so communication was really difficult the first few weeks. After that, I figured out how to send some text messages in Korean to communicate, when I was leaving and coming home. I was able to communicate a little bit more with the elementary aged daughter who was in the family. And so at the end of the day, I do have some fond memories of my host family, but I think that was something really difficult for me in the first few weeks because of the language barrier. The third main part of the Nisly program is the orientation, the pre-departure orientation. So this orientation allows you to meet everyone who you'll be going on the program with, and it also gives you more information about the program itself. So my pre-departure orientation was for, I believe, 3 days in New York City. We were staying at Columbia University, which was super exciting for me because I think I'd only been to New York City once before, so I was so happy to be there. And then from this orientation, we flew all together as a group to South Korea. So this really ensures the safety of students as you're traveling together with a group, with some other friends. So that way, if you're nervous about flying internationally, going through customs, you have some people to help you and you can always ask questions to the adults accompanying you. The fourth part of the program that I really remember is something called the Hanmi Culture Camp. So this camp brings together the Nisly American high school students with Korean high school students. We get put into teams together, we played icebreaker games, then we went on a scavenger hunt throughout Seoul, and then we had a closing ceremony as well. I ended up becoming really close friends with some people from the camp, and throughout the rest of the summer, we would text, we would meet up. I know a lot of people met up with the friends that they made in cafes, did other things together, so it was a really great experience, and we were all super excited to practice our Korean, practice our English, and just get to know each other. And so finally, the fifth thing, another big part of the Nisly Korea program, is the supporters. So supporters are Korean college students who are there to help you. So not only are they there for academic support to help you with your Korean, with your homework, they are also there to take you around, to be your Korean friend, and to kind of act as a tour guide as you are in Seoul. So on my program, there was one supporter for every 3 students. So altogether, we were a 4-person group. And because our Korean classes started at 1:30, we often met in the mornings. We went to cafes together, we did homework, the supporters helped us study, and then we would have lunch, maybe do an activity, and then go to class. So the supporters were required to meet with us twice a week, and then there were some other activities the supporters were required to attend, but it seemed like the supporters just really wanted to show us around, and it seemed like the supporters themselves were friends, and so often they would talk to their friends, and they would organize something like a picnic or a trip to karaoke, and then we would all get together with the Korean supporters and then their students, and we would all gather and do an activity together. So it was really, really fun and memorable. Some examples of things we did together. We went to Lotte World, which is an amusement park in Korea. We did a picnic at the Han River with some other supporter groups. We rode bicycles together. We went to museums. All together, it was a really, really fun time. And then finally, at the end of the program, there was a closing ceremony. So at the closing ceremony, of course, we got our little Nisly diplomas, and then we did performances with our supporter groups. These performances included singing, dancing. I know for our group, we made a music video. It was a really nice way to say goodbye to all of the wonderful people I had met that summer. So just some tips before you get applying. Whether you're applying for Korean or not, I would really highly recommend you think about why you're applying to the program. This will help you be able to articulate your reasons in your essays later on. The second tip I would have is to really familiarize yourself with the application. So you can see some example applications online. The Nisly application really resembles a college application. You will need some short essays, some biographical information, as well as a parent and teacher recommendation. So make sure you're thinking about which teacher you want to write a recommendation for you, as well as what you might write on those essays. The third tip I have is to search out some blogs, some YouTube videos, vlogs, Facebook groups, anything that will help you get more information about the Nisly program. By connecting with alumni and other applicants, you can ask questions, talk together, get excited, and find out more about what this program is all about. Let me know if you end up applying to Nisly. I hope this information and the tips I gave were helpful, and of course, leave any questions you have below. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.